On June the 4th, 1973, at an extraordinary general meeting of the company which my client, Mr. Cummings, controlled, Icarus Properties, the defendant, Mrs. Simon, circulated a number of broadsheets, of which you have copies, accusing my client for being responsible for the deaths of her husband, Louis Simon, and of Mrs. Hammond in an air crash on April the 7th. Mr. Cummings was piloting the plane which crashed, a plane which he incidentally also owned. Now, if you look at the documents before you, members of the jury, you will see at page 1 the broadsheet circulated by Mrs. Simon. You will see that there it is alleged that he, that is Mr. Cummings, was an experienced pilot. He would not make an error of judgment. His responsibility for the deaths of Mr. Simon and Mrs. Hammond, therefore, is not connected with a flying error. The cause of the crash is to be sought elsewhere. Now, members of the jury, nothing could be more plainly libelous. Mrs. Simon further says that Mr. Cummings suffered from a medical condition which disqualified him from holding a pilot's license, and which he failed to notify to the Civil Aviation Licensing Authority. And she says, and goes on to say, that if this medical condition is not the cause of the accident, then the accident occurred because Mr. Cummings deliberately flew the aircraft into the ground in an attempt to kill himself, to commit suicide. This, Mrs. Simon states, is what she meant. This, she asserts, is true, and this, my client will tell you, is quite untrue. I call the plaintiff Edward Cummings. You are Edward Joseph Cummings of Avebury Hall, Hayden, near Fulchester?
I am.
And you are the plaintiff in this case?
That is correct.
You are chairman and managing director of the company Icarus Properties?
Yes.
Now, you were the owner of a light aircraft known as a Lapwing,
yes.
the Porter Lapwing.
Yes.
And you were piloting that aircraft on the day that it crashed near Fulchester Aerodrome?
I was.
Yes. A Porter Lapwing, Mr. Cummings, how would you describe this aircraft in non-technical language?
Well, it's a twin-engined, low-wing monoplane capable of carrying 4 people.
Now, Mr. Cummings, why did you take Mr. Simon up with you?
Well, I have some property near Fulchester, near the aerodrome, and I was showing it to Mr. Simon in the hope that he'd put up some capital and help me develop it.
How long have you held a private pilot's license?
About 7 years.
And since you qualified as a pilot, how many flying hours have you logged as pilot in command?
1,620 hours.
How many hours have you flown in Golf Alpha Papa Mike Papa?
Ooh, about 600 since 1970 when I bought the aircraft.
I see. Now, you took off from Fulchester at 2:28 on April the 7th.
That is correct.
With Mr. Simon and Mrs. Hammond as passengers.
So I believe.
So you believe? Aren't you certain, Mr.
Well, they must have been on board because they were found in the wreckage, but I only remember Mr. Simon being there.
My lord, as a result of the crash, as a result of striking his head, my client is still suffering from partial amnesia.
Indeed.
Well, it is, I understand, my lord, quite a common phenomenon amongst crash victims.
Yes, Mr. Cummings, is the position then that you remember nothing of this flight?
No, my lord, I can remember some bits of it, but well, it's no use pretending I can recall it all.
And you cannot remember Mrs. Hammond being present?
No, my lord, but she must have been, mustn't she?
So it would seem, Mr. Cummings. Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Now, Mr. Simon had been your business partner at one time, had he not?
Yes, we owned Icarus Properties jointly till I bought him out.
And the purpose of this flight was to survey a property in which you wished to interest Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Now, what did the aerial survey involve?
Well, I remember flying a circuit of the property.
Circuit?
Rectangular course, banking at each corner.
And at what height were you flying?
About 1,600 feet.
What did you do whilst you flew the circuit?
Well, we were close to Fulchester Aerodrome, so I kept in radio contact with the tower. Air traffic control, my lord. Telling them my height and heading as I changed course.
Now, why did you do that?
Well, we were in Fulchester's control zone.
My lord, this might be a convenient moment to refer to the recording, the tape recording of Mr. Cummings' conversations with air traffic control, which I mentioned.
Yes. Are these agreed, Mr. Parsons?
Yes, my lord.
Is it normal for control towers to record conversations with pilots in their control zone?
Oh, yes, I understand it is, my lord. By law, air traffic control are required to keep such tapes for 30 days.
I see, thank you.
Now, Mr. Cummings, do you remember talking to air traffic control?
Yes.
Do you remember talking to anyone else?
Well, I remember talking to Louis, Mr. Simon, as we were flying the circuit. We were both in the front seats wearing the pilot's headsets and microphones.
And where was Mrs. Hammond at this time?
I don't know.
And now, what happened between flying the circuit that you mentioned and the crash?
I don't know. The next thing I remember is waking up in hospital. They told me I'd been there for 3 days, but I don't remember anything of it.
Do you remember taking off?
No. All I remember is driving along the motorway to Fulchester to meet Louis Simon for lunch.
What about after that?
Nothing. Well, that's not quite quite true. I remember flashes.
What do you mean by flashes, Mr.
Well,
Cummings?
small things like ordering Louis Simon a Bloody Mary and Louis Simon and April Hammond having a hell of a row.
What was this row about?
Well, he was about to give her the heave-ho, and she was pretty wild about it.
I see. Where did the row take place?
Gee, I'm not sure.
Well, could it have been in the aircraft?
My lord, this witness has just said he doesn't know where the incident took place.
My lord, I shall shortly be calling evidence which will suggest quite a different cause of the accident from that proposed by Mrs. Simon.
Then I would suggest that you pursue that evidence with a witness whose memory is a little more reliable.
As your lordship pleases. My lord, I think we are now ready to play the tape recording made by air traffic control.
Yes.
Colchester Tower, this is Golf Alpha Papa Mike Papa, turning on to 340, maintaining 1500 feet.
Roger Mike Papa, 340 at 1500. Would you check your press to talk transmission button, please?
Say again?
Mike Papa, you're intermittently stuck on transmit and cluttering this frequency,
Mike Papa, roger.
Colchester Tower, this is Golf Bravo Alpha X-ray Oscar, outer marker.
Roger, X-ray Oscar. The QFE is 1004. You're clear to land runway 27. Surface wind at 280 degrees at 10. Be advised there is one light aircraft manoeuvring at 1,500 feet 2 miles north of the airfield.
Roger, X-ray Oscar.
Colchester Mike Papa, turning right onto 060, maintaining 1500. Look, Louis, I thought you wanted to see the property. Don't you want to? It's no good. I've had enough. I can't go on with this any longer. Colchester Mike Papa, turning.
Mike Papa, your transmitter is open. You're blocking this frequency.
Turning.
Hey, what are you trying to do? Kill us all? Hey! God! Jesus!
The message ceases there. The aircraft crashed in a field a mile from Fulchester Airport. Mr. Simon and Mrs. Hammond were killed. Now, Mr. Cummings, did the defendant, Mrs. Simon, come to see you after the crash?
Well, she came to see me once or twice while I was in hospital.
Did she appear to be well disposed toward you?
Well, to begin with, she was friendly. I think she just wanted to talk to someone about Louis. So the trouble is, I'd known him well. She kept trying to make out he was some kind of saint, the perfect husband. Well, that he wasn't.
Mrs. Simon seemed to you to be expressing a rather fanciful view of her husband.
Fanciful's hardly the word for it, my lord. She was kidding herself, and she knew it. She was just trying to work up some genuine grief.
What do you mean by that, Mr. Cummings?
Well, we both knew he was an old goat.
Did you tell Mrs. Simon about him and April Hammond?
Yes, I did.
What was Mrs. Hammond's relationship with Mr. Simon?
Well, everyone knew that she
My
was...
lord, this is hearsay.
Yes, but he is merely being asked what he told the defendant.
I will rephrase the question if my learned friend so desires, my lord. Mr. Cummings, did you have reason to believe that Mr. Simon and Mrs. Hammond, did you see them frequently together?
Yes, sir.
Were they, as far as you could see, on intimate terms?
Oh, yes. In fact, at a party at my place, I actually saw them being intimate.
By what right does
And
this
April
man say
Hammond
such
wasn't
things
the only
about
one
Louis?
either.
Mr. Cummings! Mrs. Simon, I realize that this must be very painful to you, but you must not interrupt the proceedings.
Nevertheless, my lord, these are vicious allegations to make against two people who are dead and cannot defend
It
themselves.
is sad that these allegations should be made, and I'm waiting for Mr. Ingram to show me how they are relevant.
Yes, my lord. Did you tell Mrs. Simon about their intimacy?
Yes, I did. I told her to stop kidding herself.
Yes. Now, Mr. Cummings, you spoke of other women besides Mrs. Hammond. Now, do you know this of your own knowledge?
Yes, my lord. Louis was keeping at least one other girl in a flat in London, in Knightsbridge. Oh, she was about 19. He liked them young.
And did you tell Mrs. Simon this too when she visited you?
Yes, I did.
How did she behave when you told her?
Hysterically.
And did she then accuse you of being responsible for the death of her husband?
Well, she was very hysterical.
Please answer the question that you were asked, Mr. Cummings.
I'm sorry, my lord. Yes, she practically accused me of murder.
Murder?
I thought she was overwrought. I mean, I was flying the plane when Louis was killed.
Mr. Cummings, in her alleged libel, which Mrs. Simon distributed at your shareholders' meeting, She alleged that you were suffering from a medical condition which made you ineligible to hold a pilot's license. Now, did Mrs. Simon ever state what that condition was supposed to be?
Epilepsy.
Mrs. Simon said that you were epileptic.
Yes.
Are you epileptic?
No, I'm not.
Have you ever received medical treatment for epilepsy, fits, dizzy spells?
No, I have not.
Now, did you have to complete Civil Aviation Authority medical form in order to obtain your license?
Yes, I did.
My Lord, medical form 46, the one completed by Mr. Cummings last year, is at page 35 in the agreed document.
Yes, page 35. Have you got it?
As your Lordship will see from this, there is no indication whatever that the plaintiff suffered from epilepsy, dizziness, nervous trouble, nor that there is any family history of epilepsy. Now, Mr. Cummings, could such an accusation affect your business career?
It not only could, it did.
In what way?
Well, after I bought Louis out, Icarus Properties became a one-man band. And no one in his right senses is going to back you if he thinks you have fits.
No. Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
Now, Mr. Cummings, you knew April Hammond prior to the crash.
Yes, yes.
Was she your mistress as well?
She had been a few years ago.
Yes. Other people's reputations don't count for much with you, do they, Mr. Cummings? Now, Mr. Cummings, what is your financial position?
My Lord, I cannot see how this is relevant to the case.
I can, Mr. Ingrams, and the witness will answer.
Well, I haven't got my bank statement with me at the moment.
Is it not true, Mr. Cummings, that your company, Icarus Properties, has just gone into voluntary liquidation?
Yes.